Okay everyone, my name is Thomas Reed and this is my 2001 Lexus GS 430. So, if we take a quick peek at the interior, it's a very comfy car. Nice leather seats. It's a little bit old, obviously it doesn't have the latest technology, but so far it is my favorite car that I've owned. Granted, I'm coming from a tiny Acura Integra, so at 6'4", fitting in that thing was a challenge every day. The exterior is an interesting greenish gray color. If we take a peek at it, helps contribute to that grandpa style look that this car really goes for, personally, which I love. Previous owner had thrown on some Weld racing wheels. I'm not a huge fan of them, but I guess they aren't the end of the world. So if we come over here to the engine, this is a 4.3 liter V8. This puts out about 300 horsepower and 325 foot-pounds of torque. And if we come up to the front, we can get a slightly better view of the belt configuration and the components in here. So we'll start from left to right. Closest on the left, that's your power steering. If we look just right in here, so our power steering pump. Underneath that, in the bottom left corner, in fact, it's actually out of sight. There we go. Far bottom left, we have the alternator. Dead center, that's actually the crank. It's got that little red tick mark on it. Right above that is, let's see, the diagram says an idle pulley, but I find that hard to believe, isn't it? Yeah, it looks like it is, yep. So that's an idle pulley. To the right of that, AC compressor. And then right dead center in the front top, again, another idle pulley. So the front two are actually just idle pulleys that help get the belt out of the way. So now, we'll go ahead and take a peek underneath the car, check out the transmission if we can get a good view of it, the drive shaft, and the differential. Alright, so we're at the front right wheel here. We're just going to take a peek right underneath here. We should be able to find the transmission. It is a rather large object, so it shouldn't be too difficult, and I believe it's right there. So this mates up against the engine itself and transmits power using the clutch and different varying gear ratios. So we followed this back. Looks like we've got a transmission fluid pan, that black flat object, and that ends there. And now in between here, if you look back, see those 3 bolts, 4 of them actually. I believe just past this is where we'll find that drive shaft. Yep. And so the transmission, obviously, after taking power from the engine, transmits that power to the drive shaft. And later on we'll look back and we can see where the drive shaft connects to the differential. But unfortunately from this view there's a big old heat shield in the way, so we're not going to be able to see too much of that from this angle. So as promised, we're going underneath the rear of the car. Check out the drive shaft, differential, and the axles. It's the most convenient place, surprisingly, because the drive shaft up front is covered by the heat shield of the exhaust. So if we look right in here, there we are. That is the drive shaft, or at least the end of it, that mates right up against the differential. So all of that is the differential, and right there is where it connects to the drive shaft. Now if you notice that silver thin metal there, that's the heat shield of the exhaust, and that covers up most of the drive shaft, so it's very difficult to see at any other point underneath this car, unfortunately. So, coming back here again, from the drive shaft to the differential, we can now look to the right here and go to that boot sort of covering right there. That's covering the axle. And from that axle, you just follow that to the wheel where it transmits the power from the engine to the ground. So, thank you for watching. It's been a brief summary of the powertrain on my 2001 Lexus GS 430.